Welcome back to LSU Live at the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Lewis Johnson, and we got another big show. We got a lot of news. LSU is now into its third week of fall camp, and you got a lot going on. You got some fake news, you got some real news, and we'll jump right into it, starting with injuries and availability news. Biggest injury news is Garrett Nussmeier. Of course, the internet decided last week randomly that he tore his ACL when he had to leave practice. Unfortunately, it was not a torn ACL. Brian Kelly came out the next day, said it was tendonitis, and who knows if that's all it is. But what we do know is it's not a torn ACL. In fact, Nussmeier was back at practice today. He's back at practice before today. Still wearing a sleeve, but he looked very sharp today, and he didn't hesitate to scramble. Still sharp throwing the ball. So that's what you want to see out of your starting QB. Nussmeier's back in action. Speaking of that quarterback room, Juwan Johnson is getting some reps as a reserve quarterback / wildcat, whatever you want to call him. Johnson has now moved to running back now that LSU is missing freshman JT Lindsey. Lindsey has some legal issues he's got to work out until LSU finds out more about when he'll be available. Johnson, your jack of all trades, is back at running back, which is a good thing because you can still move him around. And Johnson will be a guy that can help LSU in a lot of ways, and he can add some more options in that running game that struggled to get going last year. Also, Aaron Anderson still not practicing at full speed, but he's dressing out. He's at practice. So it looks like it's nothing to be worried about. But as I've said before, if you're going to be missing somebody, there's no better position than receiver where you're as deep as ever. Speaking of receiver, who's stopping them? Your cornerbacks, Jakeem Jackson has been having a great camp. Jackson is stepping up, transfer from Florida. But he was out. He was held out of action today, but he was still dressed out, still at practice. It doesn't appear to be anything serious. So before we get too far into camp notes, I want to say, as a fan, you can't get too wrapped up in these camp developments. You'll drive yourself crazy. If one side of the ball looks good, then the other side looks bad. So you kind of got to take the good with the bad, balance it out, and draw your own conclusions. If you follow me on this platform or on the socials, it's no surprise that I'm not overly confident on the interior of the offensive line right now. I don't think the staff is super confident in them either, but I also don't think that they're panicking about your guards. I said the interior, but Braylon Moore has been pretty solid at center. Your guards have been a question mark, and want to reiterate the fact that they are having their good days too. They're not getting completely dominated every day, especially in one-on-ones. Mostly it's 11 on 11 where you see those guys struggle, but they're having their share of wins. And you still got that same starting group with Josh Thompson at right guard and DJ Chester at left guard. You're seeing Cohen Echols trying to work his way in there. One day, Carius Kern got some reps at right guard. He's been back out to left tackle as your second string left tackle recently. So you got some options, but we just don't want to panic. It's still early in camp. Even though you can sense the urgency today, Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan, your OC, they were more vocal. They were less patient with mistakes. I'll say that. But that's just all part of it. You're ramping up to a pretty big opener, and you got to get ready. But we got a few things that kind of continue to show up at practice. And one of those things is depth across the board. Of course, where you want to see it the most is defensively, where you've struggled the past couple of years. But you've got it across the board. Can't say enough about the wide receiver group, but your cornerback group. You got 5 cornerbacks that you honestly trust right now. Mansour Delane is going to start. You transfer out of Virginia Tech. Outside of him, you got Ashton Stamps coming into his second year as a starter. If he can hold off guys like Jakeem Jackson, who I spoke of, DJ Pickett, your 5-star freshman. PJ Woodland. I mean, you got 5 legitimate guys that you could play on the outside and feel comfortable. Your safety room, you're going to play 5 safeties. D tackle, your most important position. You're going 3 deep at both spots for the first time in a long time. I don't know when the last time this LSU program has gone 3 deep at DT, but you're going to see 6 guys at defensive tackle this year, starting with guys like Dominic McKinley coming back for his second year. Bernard Gooden, your transfer from UCF, has been standing out. Bro is back. Guillory is back. Sean Washington, Sadir Mitchell from Texas. You got big bodies. You got quick guys. You got 3 techs. You got a variation of guys that can play different schemes. You can use them in different situations, and it's just it's something that just keeps showing up at practice, and it's a good problem to have when you're trying to decide who's going to get these reps. Another thing that's showing up is the weapons all over the field offensively. So I've said enough about the wide receiver room, but also at tight end, Bauer Sharp out of Oklahoma has been catching anything that gets close to him. He can run after the catch. He's physical. He plays hard. He brings energy. They keep talking about Tre'Davious Green and the mismatch that he is. You got more weapons at running back with Harlem Berry coming in now, who can strike from anywhere on the field. Durham has established himself, but Berry is going to be a big part of this offense, and he'll be a difference maker in this offense. Can't leave out Donovan Green in that tight end room. So the LSU offense is going to be pretty tough to key in on one guy or one aspect of the team when you're trying to game plan against these guys, because they got weapons all over, and you've got a quarterback who's entering his second year, and he's as confident as ever. So I want to talk about 3 standouts so far at camp, and it's hard to narrow it down to just 3 because you got so many new guys, and you got, like I said, you got returning guys that have also stepped up, who've gotten better, starting to realize their potential. But with your 3 standouts so far, I want to start with PJ Woodland, because it tends to get looked over because LSU has recruited so many big names at the position. But Woodland was a 3-star guy out of Hattiesburg last year. It's not super big, but his size is what it is. You can get bigger, you can get stronger, but either you can cover or you can't. Woodland can cover. He's a good cover guy. He's a competitive guy. He doesn't back down, and he's been making a mark at practice. He's been tough to beat. He's just been tough to beat. He's all over the field. He's a willing tackler, and he's going to play a major part at cornerback for LSU. Other than Woodland, we talked about Bernard Gooden. Gooden, you're going to hear him, but you're also going to see him. Gooden is going to walk the walk. He's going to talk the talk. He's 6'1", 270, so he's not your biggest defensive tackle. Blake Baker spoke on this today. They studied him a lot. They studied his run defense. They trusted him, and it's looking like it's paying off because Gooden has been an absolute problem. He's stepping in. I was thinking he'd come in and kind of supplement that defensive tackle position, be a guy you can count on, a reserve guy. No, he's probably going to start. Gooden, he's been a difference maker. He's been hard to block, and he's one reason that so many people are kind of concerned about these guards right now because they can't stop them. So Bernard Gooden, your top defensive tackle available after the spring portal window. LSU was able to bring him in, and he's going to play a big role. This name is one that I haven't talked about much, but it's as important as anybody on the defense, and that's Harold Perkins. It's easy to forget about how disruptive Perkins can be. He struggled so much with injuries the past couple of years, and staff has been trying to figure out where he fits best. Do we play him at the position where he projects as a professional player? It's just been a lot of questions about where to put Perkins, what to do with him. And it's looking like he's completely healthy coming off that injury from last year. And he's just been all over the field. Whether it's rush-in, linebacker, or star, his actual starting position at star, he's been matching up well in coverage. He's been good in run support. And I just can't say enough about him in coverage, though. When you're going against guys like Sharp and Trey Green, you won't see many tight ends. You won't see a better group at all, I don't think, than those guys. And he is more than holding his own. He's baiting Nussmeier in the picks. Perkins has been huge so far, and it's a great sign for this LSU defense because you get better up front. I've talked about the secondary and how much improvement I expect from them, but Perkins is a difference maker that you just can't account for. He's a different kind of guy. You can't block him, and when you don't know where he's going to play, it's hard to game plan against him. So Perkins will be back in a major role this year. Thank goodness he's healthy. Like I said, it's going to be tough to narrow down just 3 standouts. So I got more guys I kind of put in my honorable mention of standouts, starting with Caden Durham. Even without the talk about the offensive line and their struggles, Durham has been just not constantly, but consistently making plays. About once a practice, whenever the media can see it, he's breaking at least one. He's catching the ball well out of the backfield. So Durham is going to be a year older too, and you take for granted what he did as a true freshman last year, but it's not really that common, especially in this league. You know, you can come in and establish a role, but he came in, he took over the job. He was the leading running back for LSU, and what he got, the yards he got, the production he got was without a lot of help from his O-line. So I'm expecting big things from Durham, and I'm expecting him to take a lot of pressure off of Garrett Nussmeier. I think there was just too much in Nussmeier's hands last year. You were asking too much of him. You're asking too much of any quarterback to drop back and throw 40 times a game. You kind of setting your offense up for failure when 3rd and goal from the 3-yard line is an obvious passing situation. You know, you got to be able to hand this ball off sometimes. You got to be creative too, but there's times where you just got to be able to hand it off. Let's get the short yardage. Let's move the chains. I think you're going to see a lot of that from Durham, and you're also going to see some explosive plays, probably more than last year because of more opportunities, but also because he'll be completely healthy. Barry and Brown at the receiver position. He's just another guy that continues to make plays day after day. He gets deep day after day. He's beating your best corners. And he kind of got slept on, I think, while at Kentucky because it's Kentucky. It's not the highest profile team until you see him beating Ole Miss or somebody like that. Then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe this guy can play. But for the most part, guys are trying to get overlooked coming from a program like that. But Brown could be your leading receiver. Could easily be your leading receiver in a loaded room. Talked about that tight end room, and I don't think you can say enough about it because you're getting a well-rounded room with Sharp. I spoke about his willingness to block, his ability to get open, his ability to be dependable, be a kind of a safety blanket for Nussmeier. But on the other end of that, you get Trey Green, who's 6'7", and he's got wide receiver skills. He can actually route you up. You know, in the red zone, he's a big target, but I don't want to relegate him to just being a red zone target because he can beat you from anywhere on the field because he's just a matchup nightmare. You know, it's not really too many corners going to be able to match up with 6'7", 240-pound guy. I mean, it's not any safeties or linebackers that can run with him. So that room, I couldn't narrow down just one of those guys, but that tight end room has also stood out for LSU so far.